Down the Rabbit Hole podcast. We're back. So Chauncey's over there. So I always want to give basically a heads up. If you hear the ambient ASMR noise of a snoring, it is
Chauncey Smalls.
And Chauncey Smalls is, for those that don't know about our lives,
our French bulldog.
Exactly. So that's what it is. So look,
she's very politely, I must say.
French bulldogs have this amazing power pose, right?
Yeah, very polite.
Very polite.
Yeah.
Makes you want to listen to them.
She looks regal and pink like myself,
Regal and pink. Okay, I got a bone to pick.
Here we go.
How many dog beds is enough to buy for a dog?
Well, you need one in every room and location.
Yeah.
Because there's based on the sun.
Every room?
Yes.
This is what I...
And then on top of that, it wears out from time to time. So then you're going to have to buy new beds and whatnot.
Mate, this is... You are listening to yourself speak, right?
Yes.
Well, technically no, because you don't have the headphones, but yes.
No, but I stand by what I say.
Parenthood. Dog parenthood.
Providing for my child.
If you have a dog, you'll know. Okay. So today's topic. Do millennials feel worse off about the future? Dun, dun, dun.
Grim.
Well, it's not all grim, but let's ponder on the question. I think there are a couple of different ways to put it up, but is Gen Y the disillusioned generation? I think if you type around, if you see in traditional sort of news sphere, there are a lot of commentary, and I think ironically when we zoom back, when we hear about these comments, they're not necessarily only to do with Gen Y. I mean, everyone's feeling a bit, meh at the moment in terms of the major news points in the world, but specifically pertaining to Gen Y, as a Gen Y or millennial, do you feel a bit worse off about the future?
I could be saying quite a politically correct answer.
Yeah, no PC. Let's keep it real.
No, but I do it's all comparative, right? It's all relative to when it happens. The only difference now is that we've got more document proof points of what people want to say because we can just rant about it on whatever social media, right? And there's also media that is picking up the storylines because we're in this perpetual state of mirroring back what we're thinking and saying, because that will keep getting eyeballs and clicks and whatnot. So it's we're feeding the machine in a weird way.
Yep.
Right? Previous generations had it hard too. Do we say that our generation has it tough because we're in the now? Yeah. Maybe the difference is that the only difference maybe potentially is the rate of progress that is happening through technology, that is aided by technology, but then at the same point, the rates of disintegration of our society, because also we've got technology, we're more, it's that classic, we're more connected, but we're so much apart at the same time because different viewpoints and thoughts, feelings, emotions.
So let's double click on that bit that you just said here specifically. Are you saying, again, let's try and personalize it because I think it'd be good to get a personal example. Do you feel like there is less, do you feel more so that there's more things that Gen Y feel worried about than other generations previously, or that we're more attuned to it because of social media, normal media, etc., etc.?
I'm trying to break down your question.
Yeah. Well, the question is there more bad things for our generation because of our generation? Or do you feel that it's maybe about the same if we zoom out, but we keep hearing about it more just because of the rate of technology, how we communicate, etc., etc.?
I think we're just more aware of everything that could potentially be happening.
Yeah.
And that okay, you think about the news everywhere, right? We get to see the different perspective, not just a curated perspective of what's happening in any war, right? We actually can easily, if you go on any hashtag, you can actually see the struggle because people have got their phones and they're documenting everything. So therefore, there's probably more a better ability to connect to what's happening as opposed to reading a newspaper on a 24-hour news cycle. Like, it get printed every day, and that's how you get the news.
How good were newspapers?
If you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And I think because there's so much more, we're always on when it comes to understanding what news is like there's different types of news happening everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes it a bit more, like, it exacerbates, I guess, how we like that everything feels like it's like bad.
Yeah.
Especially on top of it, like, not just news, right? But I guess like our everyday lives of, things are costing more. Life is tougher, like what skills are needed for the future, all these different things, again, which is aided by the rate of change and needing to adapt, and everything we're cutting costs everywhere.
Here's some information.
Oh, Siri wants to let us know what's up.
Siri wants to know what's up.
See, exactly.
Does that not say everything?
Exactly. Siri wants to become a a panel on our podcast and take over. Clearly.
That's it.
See, we've got to contend with these things. There's too much competing factors.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. When I try and answer the question from my perspective, I think, as it always is, a little bit of both coming in. But think about it. We're the generation where, global warming as a concept and was really brought through. We're a generation where we are going through this cost of living crisis. We're the generation where we had to work from home. I think no generation has kind of gone through it.
There's the pros and cons of that. Let's not
stage.
make it.
No, I'm not. But I'm just telling you societal change, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, and we are,
COVID. Yeah.
as we'll claim it, the generation of, digital adoption, at least the first wave of it to come through. So in many times we've had as many choices as we've had, and I think the ability to have as many choices as we've had is layering up to maybe the bottling up of feelings that we're, that some of our friends and individuals within this generation are feeling. So maybe let's go into specific talking points. Redundancies being the norm. What are your thoughts about that? Because it was only a while ago, PC prior to COVID, that the only way you'd hear about people being let go was because of lack of performance, or you didn't pass your probation and stuff like that. I know that the term redundancy is a real word, but what is going on? It wasn't a thing.
We're being taken
over. Everybody's
got something to say about what's going on.
It wasn't until recent, after COVID, with the economic climate the whole world is going through. By the way, we're recording in Australia, but the same dynamics hold through for the entirety of the world. Things are more expensive. Money has been printed, and it's all catching up. But what are your thoughts on the dynamic of just redundancies being a very common occurrence?
Yeah, it's becoming more common.
Yeah,
and I think it's even before redundancies was a thing. It was they hid it behind another word, being restructure. And I think why do you need a restructure? Because the current way of doing things is not going to be feasible nor appropriate to do moving forward, right? So you got to change how you do stuff. And then now, in light of, post-COVID and business as a whole not doing as great in different domains, you got to cut costs, right? And I think from a personal impact, I guess what that can do is just adding a lot of pressure into. It's funny, right? Because we spoke last week about the previous episode. Sorry, I should say about.
It was a couple of weeks ago now.
Well,
yeah,
I'm sticking to the timeline of how things get released, mate.
Yeah.
You know that anyway. We spoke about, like the changing views of work and how, instead of it being, there's a bit more flexibility with work. There's a bit more of how do you have the boundaries with work and what does that play in your life, right? Be it like the thing that you drive towards, and then all of a sudden there's a life balance, the work-life balance. Whereas, you chuck in redundancy, and it's kind of, oh well, the need to justify yourself, right? Put your best foot forward.
That's a good word.
To kind of just to save yourself from any of that stress or any kind of having to deal with the problem that,
doesn't exist yet, but because
it's completely out of control, if that makes sense. It's like, how sometimes a problem can be created based on a choice that you made or something like that, but it's completely out of your control.
Say that again.
What I'm saying is the idea of if you make a decision on something, there could be further repercussions or consequences based off that. But this is something that's when you're being made redundant, it's completely out of your control, right? It's not forecasted. It's not like intended or anything, right?
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is that it does shift the focus, especially in times where that's a thing that, has to happen within an organization. It's just this additional layer of pressure that, from a personal view of having to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Many organizations, including the one that I work at, is that are having to undergo through that. And it's really tough, not just for the people that are, not just for the waiting of, are you impacted? Then when it happens,
the people that stay, right? The survivors.
Not even the people that stay yet. It's about the people that did get impacted, and those that do stay with the survivors guild. It's kind of like you're wanting to help, but it's like this weird kind of, even I guess like these are this is people at the end of the day. Remove business, and I know business, it's all about making money, and it's all about driving value and stuff, but this is like people's livelihood at the end of the day, and people that you work with and build relationships with. It's I think it's undoubtedly and I don't want to, I say this word and people will be like, oh, that's a bit much, but it's true. It's a traumatic experience. And it really sucks.
Yeah. It's just the fact that a concept like that is now relatively mainstream, and see it in our generation, which it definitely is for both of us, right? Because we've heard it. It's in the news cycle nonstop, and we've been part of we are in companies that are part of it. And the irony is, if you're in any company that's creating value and requires reciprocity in terms of payment from other partners, they're all going through it. There's a compression across the board, right? Even at government and economic levels. But to your point, how this is affecting, millennials, it's affecting everyone. Let's keep it there. But again, this is something that's happening so frequently to a generation that's probably, like we said, within 30s to 40s. So they're probably in the middle of their career, maybe, can't speak for everyone. And they're seeing a large chunk of their friends that are being let go. You can be redundant, not for performance issues, just because things need to be redistributed from a resourcing perspective. Yeah.
It's probably, I think we'd be remiss to also say that it's not something that like all generations feeling it, especially our older generation, so Gen X, where it is that thing again of, because of the rate of change that's happening, right? You're having to make sure you've got from a business point of view, maintaining a workforce that is going to maintain stability moving forward, right? Making sure you got the right skill sets and whatnot. And that also, like we were talking about, we're just starting work when we're coming in our 20s and whatnot, and everything's about being a sponge and learning things, right? And now we're at this stage where, in management in some instances, or, we're leading in our own fields and whatnot. And we're kind of going to be responsible for, managing these things moving forward.
Yeah.
But then it's also having to learn constantly learn and
Yeah.
constantly and in areas where it's this sounds really dramatic when I say this, but it's like it's uncharted, right? It's not as if it's like it's been
Yeah, yeah.
seen elsewhere before. It's
I think it's because the scale and frequency in which these are happening pretty intense and something that all generations haven't probably seen, right?
Yeah.
But then again, like we said that we've seen in our like LinkedIn feeds, people just, either how they process it. Either you come out and you're like, all right, I'm going to use my network to try and get back
Yeah.
in it. Or you see the opposite, which is, this has been 1 year since I've been let go from Google
Yeah.
and I'm finally blah, blah,
Reflection.
reflection,
Yeah.
right? And again, these have happened through different generations, but it is the sheer scale and size to which, we probably all know a couple of people within our personal network that have been let go. And it's not through competency issues and stuff like that. Imagine being let go, not due to not being good at your job, simply because at the end of the day, there are a number of components that need to be reached to achieve an outcome from a business, which is interesting. But it does leave not a scar, but it does. I mean, there is some version of it where in the back of the mind, you're thinking about it. And I think it is clouding. It is one element of how millennials are, seeing the future, basically.
Yeah.
Chilling. So, do you have anything to talk about that one specifically?
I just thought about how it's how you mentioned in the previous episode with GFC, right? It's maybe it's like it's kind of that. It's not our first foray into kind of.
But can I say,
job
didn't the
stability?
GFC feel for you personally like a walk in the park compared to this a little bit?
I personally didn't feel the impact, so
Yeah, I
therefore
did.
I don't know.
That's what I mean,
But
when that's what I mean. I don't know a lot of people who and maybe our generation just didn't get impacted as much as maybe I did. I mean, personally, I've yet to talk to anyone that ever said anything about the GFC. Put some comments below if you did, by the way. But this one, and that's where I go back and forth of, is it just because the media is perpetuating it more? Is it that we're more conscious about it?
We're probably at an age to be more conscious
That's
about
what I
it.
was
Like it's
thinking.
a relevant issue for us, right? Like you say, in any of the the socials of any kind of corporate, corporate accounts where they're keeping track of movements and trends and all of that stuff. I see it all the time where this company is announcing they'll do a 10% reduction of the staff that they have and stuff, right? Where it's like, and I think in line of thinking of, career prospects and what you want to do in progression, it's like, we're in a state where we got to hodl, just to take a term from crypto where it's just where it's all about maintaining stability if you can.
Well, yeah, per last episode, I think that it's what's leading to a lot of internal conversations by people to wonder, hey, in my job, what do I really want out of it?
Yeah.
Do I want a career? Do I want to, you know what I mean? Because of all these, I think that if you have a template in terms of usually how it is, you go up the hierarchy, different levels of managing director, partner, whatever, depending on what industry you're at. And then if that cartwheel if that plan starts getting disrupted because you see all these things happen, it can lead you to rethink about it, right?
Yeah.
It definitely can. If it happens to you, it definitely can, because it's a pretty intense thing. It's a really intense thing. And if you're seeing people constantly doing that and it's not necessarily happening to you, or it hasn't happened yet, it's still just as disturbing. And I think the thing for me was the fact that I personally feel quite desensitized to it when it comes on the news, because it's another one. Yep.
The media will do that, right? Because you see it again on LinkedIn where it's that's probably the again
X company. Yep.
Pros and cons of social media, right? At least there is a state now where networking is easier. People can I think because it's documented, there's probably a bit more empathy around where wanting to help a former colleague, chuck a share for and batting for them, saying they're a great worker, etc.
Yeah.
All of those things. But then on the flip side, it is that the anxiety that still gets perpetuated
Yeah.
again in like it's the kind of the emotion, not the emotional drain, but you know, it's like the emotional impact of it,
Yep.
where you hear about it,
Yep.
and then I guess it's a matter of whether you choose like how to react to it, just for a means of you know keeping your own sanity.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to the next subtopic. Is the Australian dream, which is a house, something that I can afford? Do I want it at all? I think for a lot of millennials who are now probably at that age where they maybe have been working for a while, potentially have a little bit of savings, potentially have done the Europe trip, or you know what I mean, and worked overseas, deciding that, coming back now, with the cost of living, with the mass redundancies, with the state of play of the world, are now coming to the harsh reality even if it was a dream of mine, getting vastly priced out of the market. We're talking about Australia, which we're filming at specifically, depending on certain pockets where everyone wants to kind of live near the city. You won't get anything under $1 million. And if
Or
you
by
do,
the water,
actually,
or
I don't even
something.
think even those houses that are like derelict houses, which you've got to put another 300 grand in them, they're still over $1 million. It's actually insane. I mean,
Yeah.
I know location, but
Definitely
it's actually
over $1
insane.
million. If places like Marylands and Granville
Yeah.
are going for $1 million,
It's nuts. It's nuts.
more than actually, with the more you know, further you go in. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's interesting, right?
Yep.
Because the Australian dream of owning a
Which is the
home,
American dream, which is
which is
probably
the
every
American
country's dream.
which is
yeah.
every other country. It's something
Is
that
it the South American dream though?
I don't know. But it's something that gets fed to us at a young age, right?
is.
You think about like milestones that happen in a person's life, and that's what dictates success. Yeah, it's all about finishing university, getting a job, getting married, having a kid. Oh, sorry, buying a house, having a kid. Right?
In that order, hopefully.
In that order. And then your own personal milestones as you get older.
Yep.
Gain experience, as I say. Right? It's kind of when society tells you that, that's what you should do. And then you like get into that realm and try and understand it, and yeah, everyone's getting priced out, and you know, renting forever, and like trying to make trade-offs for the life that you want to have, but then you're looking at your budget and you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, like this weekend might be a quiet one or something, right? Maybe there's a plus side of a choice now for people to think that, and I'm going to try and spin this in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
It's just that, well, maybe that's not for me, and maybe I don't want that. Maybe I value something else, right? Like we're in an age where we could technically work anywhere if we really wanted to within the right time zones, like digital nomads and stuff like that, right?
Depending, yeah.
There's other jobs that are being created, obviously digital creators that, you know, there's a whole industry there.
Which apparently it's what young kids want to be when they grow up. They
Oh
wanna be a
yeah,
YouTube
which
star,
is crazy.
which is its whole own topic.
Which is
but yeah,
crazy.
it's nuts. Actually, that's a good topic.
Yeah, but then also
We'll definitely talk about that.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's I did see an article this morning where there was these it's a young family, and they've decided not to buy a home, and I didn't read it in further detail, but you're getting coverage of that type of, you know, not struggle. I don't want to say the word struggle, but it's just, I guess, the choices now that people have to make.
Yeah.
What they define as success.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's interesting, right? Because we're both migrants. We're both
I'm not. I'm a child of
Australia. Sorry.
Yeah.
I am. We're ethnic. Let's put it there. And I think if you think of a house like is a big representation of security, right?
Yes.
Because financially, if you run the cases, it's not it's definitely not the cheapest thing. And there's certain cases where if you look at purely for financial lens, maybe you're better off renting, right? You definitely don't have thing. But for a lot of immigrants and for a lot of ethnics, which is us, that's why I'm laboring on the point. It represents a safety valve, and you've kind of always had that. It almost represents, apart from a family,
Social acceptance.
yeah, the pinnacle of having made it. Honestly, you can maybe not have a long career in a job, but if you have a house as an ethnic, you've done something. You've done something well. You've got something to give to your next generation, whatever, right? Like it does represent that. Whereas I can tell you that if you were maybe not CEO, but like if you're very well in work, but if you're renting all the time, I can tell you that from an ethnic perspective, it would have been seen interestingly, right?
Again,
it's a mentality thing.
It's a mentality thing, yeah.
And why did I bring the point? I brought the point because there's a big representation of what a house is for people, right?
Yeah.
And if you grew up with that dream, or not even that dream, but that in-fed narrative, and this is not an ethnic narrative, this is actually a narrative for most people, right? A house represents stability. It represents a home, which is ironic because a home doesn't necessarily have to be a house. But for a lot of people, that delineation is one and the same, right? So saying that you cannot have it because of pricing issues, because of job stability, because of lack of deposit, because I'm treading this treadmill of financial purgatory, whatever you want to call it, because you're renting, how can you save, blah, blah, rents are all going up, is basically saying, hey, you will never have that opportunity to have that home, that stability and all that comes with a home. Whether that's right or wrong is another reason. But if you think of that as a narrative, that's powerful because that's a generation, and Gen Z are going to face this even more because of the prices of things. And like you said, economics.
Natural supply
and demand. Where is the actual land going to come from? I'll tell you where it's going to come from. It's going to come from much further from the CBD, which I've never been infatuated about. But a lot of people want to live near beaches. They want to live near their work preferences, which is fair. I can understand that. You want to live near all the cafes and stuff like that, although you're visiting it less because of everything else. It's just ironic, right? And again, it's creating like a generation of, oh, you know what? I can't get that. So what next? And if I think we had the conversation, but like if you don't outwardly say, you know what, that's okay. But you know what, we're gonna go overseas every month. Not every month, every year. We're gonna extrapolate the best that we can. But in the back of your mind, you think, yeah, but what happens when I get a child and a family, and eventually I don't want to be at the whim. And in the same way that the anxiety of redundancy, I don't know what's going to happen. It's like, oh man, like I'm hitting my sales target, but my company overall is backsliding. Shit, I could be let go. I could. Like,
or even if, you're wanting to get a pay rise to help, keep up with the costs and increasing mortgage based on, interest rates and whatnot. Like,
and for a lot
of things are getting squeezed.
And for a lot of people, it's that dream that's just died.
Oh, that sounds so...
But it sounds so dramatic, but it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, when you know something is just too difficult to speak about.
Yeah.
And you've accepted it, but you've never verbalized it. Oh, that does sound terrible. But it's a reality that Gen Y and quite a bit of millennials I know in my network are feeling that haven't, unfortunately, been lucky to get in. And Gen Z, I think there was a stat that said somewhere that if you don't have support, at least from a guarantor perspective, from a home loan from the bank of mom and dad, you don't even bother. Like, it's not going to happen, which is scary. Actually scary.
Yeah, it must be interesting, hey, because it's like, I think, like, well, for us, for example, right, we were fortunate to be able to stay, to live at home until we moved out and moved in, right? Like, the savings there versus having to rent, like, you get what I'm saying? It's again, that help along the way. It will probably materialize in so many different ways moving forward.
Interesting. It's
pretty bleak.
Yeah, I don't want to, but like it's just another component which is real reality, right?
Yeah.
And if you think of the redundancy bit, which is a relatively new thing, and maybe depending on what work industry, maybe not a big thing for you watching, maybe not. Definitely is for us. The house stuff. Let's talk about social media. The proverbial gramophone, the proverbial microphone that amplifies everything. It's kind of like the straw that stirs the drink, really. We said that we were digital natives. Twitter, now X, basically, like we talked in the previous episode about work, social media manager was not a thing. 10 years ago, it was not a thing. Now it's a thing. So we're fully in that ecosystem. It's causing more. Is it causing more anxiety? Is it causing more bad than good? Because we agree that there's a lot of good in it. I mean, I can't imagine, not being able to go overseas and call my family on WhatsApp. That's game changer. Like with the good comes the bad. But overall, we're scrolling on our feeds. We're seeing lives from our friends that are always the best versions of it. Feel jealousy. We feel sadness. We feel like, oh man, what am I staying home at night? They're all partying. I felt that. I felt that when I saw that when I was younger. Still do now. When you see the odd friend that's in Europe and all that, and I'm sure, yeah.
But what's the difference though? If you say like, is there a difference from before when you were younger to now?
Age.
He says it so like reluctantly.
I don't say reluctantly.
Like
I'm aging well, man. I'm aging like fine wine.
Here we go.
Fine wine. It's just a bit of an understanding and appreciation of what you have, and we have it relatively good. So I'm not gonna there is cause and effect, man. Like if we didn't save the money that we didn't save, we probably don't have a house deposit. I tell you what, I'd probably have much more stories about Europe. You know what I mean? That is the balance of equation, scarcity of resource. It's just an economic fact, right? There's no one that's to say that this is a right way to do it, this is a wrong way to do it. Yeah. It's just a choice.
Yeah.
It's a reality.
It's
you can have both. You can.
Choices is at the end of it all. And I think going back to the
social media, let's speak
social media front, I think our relationship with social media, right? So you made the point of, there's a sense of jealousy because everyone's putting their best life.
Maybe jealousy is it's anxiety. It is like
jealousy, anxiety, envy. It's all of those things, right?
Happiness,
because it's
a bit of happiness.
A bit of happiness, but then it's also, I guess, in previous to the house thing, right? There's this natural state of competitiveness, even though it shouldn't be, right? Because you're comparing.
It's comparison.
That's
the tool of comparison.
Yeah, it's a barometer of how people are tracking in life because as you track your good news, you post like the experiences that are people having, and then you think like, which is why it's so
polarizing.
It needs to be used in moderation. Social media, I think, and I think we've gone through that, right? Like as millennials,
yeah.
I hate saying that word now for some reason.
Move
like
on.
Gen Y,
Gen Y, like just embrace it.
Like we came in with social media, everyone was on it. It dictated who your top 8 friends were. It you showed all the Bebo love and
Bebo, bro.
Then you're on Facebook and you're posting your photos from the club in with your camera and stuff.
We've been friends for 8 years and all that fun stuff.
And then I think you get to that very much to the sadness of Mr. Zuckerberg, where it hits that apex of the use, right? Because we've had these feelings for such a long time of, why didn't that person invite me to their party via social media and all that stuff? And then you just get to this point of, why is it making me feel this way about things? We've had that.
And what's the irony?
We've had the discussion of if you don't want to see that person's post anymore, you unfriend them because they were a person in your life at one point of time.
No, we were saying that. Who's this
Right.
person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
yeah,
even
yeah.
know half of the friends you have. Yeah.
But then it's just it comes to this point where it's just like what value do you what's your relationship? What do you put value on it? If it's making you feel that way, and if it's not serving you, then it's just like don't use it. You know,
Easy to say though.
it is easy to say.
Probably not
Like
gonna
everything
do
has
it.
everything has a purpose, right? And I
Yeah.
think it's all about the levels that you give yourself to use it. And if you're at your threshold already where it's like, yeah, I don't need this anymore, like then you're done for the day or something, instead of being on it constantly all the time. Like random posts and memes, different story. Got a whole lot of time for that.
Yeah, but I think that that's just as bad.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's
100%.
not.
But it's the dopamine hit. It's the distraction from everything else in
so
life.
bad in that if you know, hypothetically you were to say that the dopamine hit that you get from watching a reel or sending it to a friend is equivalent to, like, let's just say a teaspoon of sugar. I'm just trying to like equate it to like a sin of that. Every time you do that, like, it's not that it's bad, but you know it's not constructive, right? Like, you know, you could be doing something.
Yes,
right?
but then it's also a form of communicating, no? Like,
Yeah, such a just
and relatability,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I
Look-
don't think it's going. I get what you're saying.
yeah.
But it's a way of connecting and relatability.
Yeah, the irony of what we've seen in terms of social media is
Yeah.
as evolved as these tools, let's call them tools, have gotten. The other thing is just the widespread hate and negativity that exists
yeah.
here, right? So the interesting thing is these social networks have made people less social. And to me, at least from the lens that I see it, and this is from our perspective, being like a channel that's trying to break out here. What I've always like been not perplexed is there's two things that that Google, YouTube rewards. One is amazing content. It's the great. That's why you like it. Like if it doesn't speak to people, if it doesn't get enough to interact with people or engage, you're not going to get surfaced up by the algorithm. So you can do that one in two ways. You can have like amazing content, can be really good, whatever that means, or you can go down the rabbit hole of basically being controversial.
Yeah.
Which for TikTok, like ironically, if you see our TikTok, the only two things that have popped well are two things that I've had like really
heated take on.
really spicy stuff, and this is rewarded. So you have interesting characters like the Logan Pauls and stuff in the world.
Yeah.
That are, and now generations are growing up wanting to be YouTubers. So who are they going to emulate? That guy.
This is the whole.
That guy,
This is
right?
the whole like the disintegration of society, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone's like it's sensationalism. They're being rewarded for that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty grim. That's something that I feel like is that's a bit
So
scary.
it's a real thing, and it's just one sub point of it. And again, I think our generation, again, everything that we're facing, Gen Z is facing it. If not, they're
be
going to.
much-
It's going to be more evolved conversations there, but it's tricky, man. It's tricky, and the tricky thing is if we view social media as this drug, it is very hard to curtail it. It is very hard. You wake up wanting to get that hit straight off the bat, like wanting to know. Why do we need to know all this stuff? Generally, why do we need to know it? Like, what are you going to, like, what more? Like, because I want to be, I say this all the time, which is the irony in it. I love learning things. I love knowing about this. But cool, dude. Like, so you've created this need to know this, but you don't know this.
yeah.
You can't speak in any level of let's attack me, right? You can't speak in any depth in this, but you need to know about this. I don't know why, but I need to know about it. I need to know what my friend's doing. I need to know why she got promoted. I need to know why this post got there. Need. The insatiable one for wanting to scroll up because I need to consume more content. I need to like this because if I like this, the person knows that I value them, or they might like my content and I might go for, you know what I mean? It's just this rat race.
Yeah.
The social media rat race of a dopamine hit to get to some place that you can't necessarily articulate, or it makes me feel good, or it's exhausting. And it doesn't feel like it, but it's exhausting.
Yeah. Like we know people who aren't there at all, right? And it'd be nice to
Would you do that? If you could go back in time, would you just say I'm not going to do it? Because like if you don't know,
I wouldn't. I'd still be on it.
damn son.
Because
We justified because we're in the marketing trade.
well,
It's true though.
It's not necessarily that. I think the internet was cool back in the day.
It is cool now, man. Internet's great.
It's not as cool as it used to be.
It's great. It's just a scary place. It's still great. You don't have to go to school now. I'm not perpetuating that, but you can learn you can learn anything in the internet.
Yes, correct.
In no
but
time.
you don't. But then
You get what I'm saying, man.
I do get what you're saying. But then it's the relationships that get built are different.
Internet's a tool.
Not to disvalue internet friendships, because I've had many of those at time.
Remember pen pals?
Pen pals?
Yeah, would you write a letter to a person
That's before the internet.
That's what I mean. But like when you say internet friends, it's like a version.
Oh, I'm talking like LiveJournal, you know?
What's LiveJournal?
Oh, you didn't know? You didn't have LiveJournal? LiveJournal was the best. It was
plugging out LiveJournal.
It was a blogging website.
It's a blog.
Yeah, like no, you can create your own template. Like think of it as like remember like free webs? Is it free webs it's called? Like you can make your own website. But basically it's a journal platform where you can blog about anything. You can have HTML codes to
so
create your own templates.
you'd link it so people could read, right?
Yeah. And then communities get built where it's, you know, if you say, for example, follow a particular singing contestant on American Idol. I'm totally not speaking from experience, but you know, and then
Yes, you are.
but you know, you get
Kelly
what
Clarkson.
Yeah. No, it's not Kelly Clarkson. Definitely not. Although she is great.
Yeah, look,
But yeah.
there's a lot going on. Let's wrap it up. Yes, it is challenging. Yes, these challenges, these sub points that we've distilled are not only applicable to Gen Y, they're applicable to everyone to a degree. Maybe a lot more Gen Z than us, but they're all valid. And now is the time as human beings to forge real connections and to spend some real time with yourself to understand what you want. Because in the end of the day, you're only accountable to yourself, right? Things are, you know what? Nah, it's really rich to say things are only as bad as you make it out to be, because the world is tough.
The world is tough, right?
Yeah.
The world is tough. But I think it's, there's still a choice on how you absorb things and then choose to move forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this sounds a bit
Preachy.
It does sound a bit preachy, but it's, I think it's being really clear about, like, for your own sanity, what boundaries do you put in place when it comes to work, when it comes to social media, when it comes to whatever, right? Of how, what will you allow to come into, like, yourself and impact you in some way. It's just ways of coping with stuff.
Yeah.
I think ultimately.
Yeah, that's true. And also, like, take time for yourself just to understand who you are as a person and what you really want.
Yep.
Because it doesn't have to be what everyone else wants. And that's okay. That is the uniqueness of humanity and people. And once you slowly start getting that, that's the journey we are all on, right?
Yeah.
Then hopefully it makes it easier. Probably, actually, you know, when you asked what's changed, that's changed. And that's just coincided with age. Like that realization.
It's probably also, you know, age equals experience and your ability just to continue to adapt to different things.
Or this is the terrible thing, but like find your tribe.
No,
it's true
100%.
though. Yeah.
These things sound very cliche.
And they will sound cliche.
But they're cliches for a reason, because they're true.
They will sound cliche until you experience them for yourself. Anyway, let us know what you think about the podcast. Leave some comments below.
Yeah. Tell us what you think. Shit's hard, man.
What? Shit's hard, but shit's also good as well.
Yeah.
There is good in the world. So let us know what you thought of the episode. Do you think Gen Y has it tough? Or do you not think Gen Y has it tough? Like, leave some comments below.
Or where do you think we have it tough?
And we hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.